Taejun leaves his house. The morning is gray, the sky low, the trees windless. The house is large, stone, with dark windows. He lives outside the city, far from everyone. The road to it runs through the forest. No neighbors, no passers-by. It's so quiet you can hear the gravel crunching under his shoes. He's wearing a black suit. The fabric is expensive, with a faint sheen in the light. His hair is long and black, pulled back, but a few strands fall over his face. He's stern and thin, his shoulders narrow, but he holds himself straight. His face is calm, but his eyes quickly glance around. He's 25, but he looks older. He's used to everything going according to plan. Today is an important day. A meeting is in town. People are waiting. The documents are ready. He checked everything last night. Folders, keys, phone. All that's left is to get in the car and go. He doesn't like being late. He doesn't like it when things go wrong. The car is parked in the yard. Big, black, clean. He chose the color himself. The yard is surrounded by a high fence. The gates are closed. There's no one inside. Security guards are stationed in the small house at the entrance, but they're not visible from the outside. He likes peace and quiet. Taejun opens the car door. The leather interior smells nice and clean. He gets behind the wheel and adjusts the cuffs of his shirt. The suit is wrinkle-free and fits perfectly. He inserts the key and turns it. The engine is silent. Taejun turns the car again. A click, silence, then a faint sound, like a sob. And that's it. Nothing happens. He looks at the dashboard. The lights are on, but the engine doesn't start. No sound, no vibration. He waits 3 seconds. Then he turns the key again. The same silence. Only a click somewhere deep inside, as if the machine wants to say something, but can't. Taejun grips the steering wheel. An unpleasant feeling wells up inside him. Not fear, but close to it. He's not used to such trifles. In his world, every minute costs money, or more. He gets out of the car and walks around the front. He looks at the hood. Black, smooth, warm on top. He doesn't understand cars. Never has. For him, they're just a tool. And now the tool is broken. He takes out his phone. There are several missed notifications on the screen, but he doesn't look at them. He opens his contacts. Taps first assistant. Beep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nobody picks up. Taejun exhales through his nose. He tries the second one. Silence on the line. Then long beeps. 6, 7, 8. He hangs up. Third assistant. Same thing. The answering machine turns on after 10 rings, but he doesn't wait. He calls the garage where the car was brought from. They answer, but say the mechanic won't be out for 2 hours. 2 hours. He has an appointment in 40 minutes. He can't wait. Taejun hangs up and stands in the middle of the yard. There's not a soul around, just a fence, trees beyond it, and a house with dark windows. There are people inside, a cook, a cleaner, security guards, but they don't come out unless he calls. That's the way it is. He looks at his phone again. He writes a message to whoever is waiting for him in the city. He writes briefly, "I'll be late." He sends it. Then he puts the phone in his jacket pocket. He's panicking. It's not obvious on the outside. His face remains calm. His hands aren't shaking. But inside, everything is clenching. He doesn't like being dependent on others. And now he's dependent on someone who's arriving in 2 hours. Or on someone who isn't answering the phone. Or on the weather. Or on luck. He hates this feeling. He turns toward the house. Maybe he should call security. But security doesn't fix cars. Maybe he should ask the cook. That's no use either. He doesn't have anyone who understands engines. He never thought he'd need to. He looks at the car again. Black, big, useless now. He runs through the options in his head. Get another car. There's another one in the garage, but he knows it's not running. It hasn't been started in a long time. Taxi. There are no taxis outside the city. It's too far. No one will drive here for a reasonable price. He remains alone in the yard. The silence is oppressive. He can't even hear the birds. Only somewhere far away the wind rustles in the forest. He looks at his watch. 10 minutes have already passed. The meeting is getting closer and he's still here. He runs his hand through his hair, brushes it back. He sighs. Then he decides to call again, the one closest, but his finger hovers over the screen. He knows no one will answer. Everyone is busy with their own things. Or they don't want to pick up. In his line of work, people often don't want to pick up when he's in trouble. He puts the phone away. There's no point. He needs to think for himself. He walks around the car. He looks at the wheels, the exhaust pipe, the mirrors. He doesn't understand anything. Everything looks fine, but something inside is broken. He bends down and peers under the car. It's dark. He can't see anything. It smells of gasoline and wet asphalt. He straightens up and realizes this is stupid. He's not a mechanic. He shouldn't be doing this. And then he notices movement. A door opens at the side of the house's service entrance. A woman emerges from the dark opening. She's not in a hurry, walking steadily and calmly. She holds a rag in her hand, old, gray, and stained. She's dressed simply. Dark pants, a white shirt with rolled-up sleeves, and an apron over it. Her hair is black, curly, and very long, reaching her waist. It's pulled back into a large bun, but a few curls have escaped and are falling over her face. She's young, about his age, slender, but not skinny. Her skin is dark, warm-toned. Her face is round and soft. Her lips are full. Her eyes are large and dark brown. She doesn't wear makeup, doesn't try to look better. She's just out on business. Zuri, that's her name. But he doesn't know it yet. To him, she's just a servant, the one who mops the floors, changes the bed linens, cleans the kitchen. He's seen her a few times, but never spoken to her. She doesn't look up when he passes. She doesn't ask questions. She does her job and disappears. But now she doesn't leave. She stops 3 steps away from him, looks at the car, then at him. She's not afraid, not embarrassed. She simply looks at him as if he were something she needs to understand. Taejun looks at her. He usually doesn't notice the servants. They're there. They work. They're invisible. But now she's looking straight at him. It's strange. Usually everyone looks away, but she doesn't. She glances at the hood. She takes a step forward, then another. She stops at the front wheel. She bends down, looking at something below. Then she straightens up and looks at him again. "It won't start?" she asks. Her voice is low, calm, and devoid of unnecessary emotion. Taejun is silent for a moment. He's not used to discussing his problems with the people who clean the house, but now he has no choice. "Yes," he answers briefly. She nods, as if she'd been expecting this answer. She turns toward the house, then back to the car. She places the rag on the hood without asking permission. "Move away," she says. Taejun doesn't move. He's not used to being ordered around, especially not by a woman with a rag, but there's no rudeness in her voice. She's simply telling it like it is. He takes a step back, then another. He stops 2 meters away. Zuri opens the hood. It's easy for her. She finds the latch inside, presses it, and lifts the heavy lid with one hand. Under the hood, it's dark and cramped. Everything is covered in wires, tubes, and metal parts. She bends down and looks inside. Taejun stands behind her, watching. He's uncomfortable. He's wearing an expensive suit, and she's wearing a stained apron. She's looking where he's afraid to look. She's not afraid of getting dirty. She runs her hand along the wires. She's not squeamish. She touches everything. Her fingers are long. Her nails are unvarnished. She's looking for something, but she won't say what. Taejun looks at his watch. Another 5 minutes have passed. He's already late. But for some reason, he doesn't leave. He doesn't call. He doesn't yell. He stands and watches her rummage through his car. "Do you understand?" he asks. She doesn't raise her head. "My father had a workshop," she replies. "I grew up there." She falls silent, touches some thick wire, and moves her hand further toward the battery. She feels the terminals, squeezes them with her fingers. Then she stops. "Here," she says. She points to a small detail Taejun can't see. There, deep between the metal pieces, something has come loose. The wire isn't holding. She doesn't call it anything complicated, doesn't explain it. She simply grasps it with her fingers. "Give me the key," she says without turning around. Taejun is silent. "What key?" She turns around, looking at him with her wide eyes. "Ignition. Turn it on." He doesn't understand why, but he goes to the driver's door and sits down. He inserts the key but doesn't turn it. He looks at her. "Come on," she says. He turns the car. The engine doesn't start, but the same clicking sound is heard. At this moment, she holds the wire in her fingers. She looks at the battery, then at the wire. She nods to herself. "One more time," she says. He turns the key again. At that moment, she moves the wire, finds another spot, presses it with her finger, and suddenly, a sound, not a click, but a hum. Deep, low. The engine comes to life. Taejun freezes. The needle on the instruments twitches. The lights flicker and go out. The engine is running, smoothly, calmly, as if nothing had happened. He looks at her through the windshield. She's standing with the hood open, holding the wire with one hand and brushing her hair out of her face with the other. There's black oil on her fingers. Her apron is even dirtier, but she's smiling. Not widely, just barely. Just the corners of her lips. "Here you go," she says. "It'll work until you turn it off." She carefully releases the cable and closes the hood. She doesn't slam it, but closes it softly, so as not to make a rattle. Then she takes a rag and wipes her hands. She does this calmly, unhurriedly. Taejun gets out of the car. The engine is running, its low rumble audible. He approaches her. He's taller now, but she doesn't back down. She stands still, wiping her fingers. "Thank you," he says. The words come hard to him. He's not used to thanking servants, but now there's no other way. She nods as if it means nothing. "It's just a wire," she says. "A terminal has come loose. You need to tighten it, then it won't fall off." She doesn't ask for money. She doesn't say she's a good girl. She doesn't look at him expectantly. She simply explains what happened and puts the rag back in her apron pocket. Taejun looks at her. For the first time all morning, he's not thinking about the meeting. He's thinking about how this woman did in 5 minutes what he wouldn't have had hours to do. She wasn't afraid to get dirty, didn't ask permission, didn't expect gratitude. She simply came out, looked, and did it. She turns to leave. She walks back to the service entrance without looking back. Her long curls sway down her back. She doesn't expect him to stop her, but he does. "What's your name?" he asks. She stops and looks over her shoulder. "Zuri," she says. "Zuri," he repeats. He remembers. She waits a second, then leaves. The door closes quietly behind her. Taejun is left alone in the courtyard. The engine is running. The clock is ticking. He's late, but for some reason he's in no hurry to get into the car. He looks at the service entrance, at the dark door through which she disappeared. He feels an unfamiliar feeling inside. Not fear, not anger, not irritation. He owes something. Seriously. Not financially, but in another way. She didn't ask for anything, but he owes it. And he doesn't like being in debt. He gets into the car and drives out of the yard. The gate opens automatically. The road leads through the forest, then onto the highway. The meeting has already started without him. He dials a number and says he'll be there in half an hour. The voice on the other end is disgruntled, but he ignores it. He thinks about her the whole way, about how she came out with a rag, how she said, "Move away," how she held the wire in her fingers. He doesn't know what to do with it. But he knows one thing. He'll be back in the evening, and he won't be back empty-handed. He's in town, holding a meeting, resolving issues, signing papers. People are around. Conversations are going on. Coffee is on the table. He's listening, responding, making decisions. On the outside, everything is as usual. But inside, he's no longer here. He's already halfway home. In the evening, he stops at a flower shop. Not big, not expensive, just a regular roadside one. He doesn't know what kind of flowers she likes. He knows nothing about her at all, but there has to be a bouquet, not as a thank you, just a start. He chooses white and yellow ones, wrapped in plain paper, not huge, but noticeable. He pays and leaves. In the car, he places the bouquet on the seat next to him. He drives home. The courtyard greets him with silence. The gates are open. The guard nods. He parks the car in the same spot. The engine now runs perfectly. He gets out and takes the bouquet. His suit is wrinkled from the day, but he doesn't notice. He walks toward the main entrance, but then stops. She's not there. She's in the back by the service entrance. He walks around the house. He goes into the backyard, where laundry is drying, where buckets and mops stand. The windows on the first floor are open, and the smell of dinner wafts in. He peers inside. The hallway is large, plain, and unfurnished. The floors are damp, freshly washed. In the middle, kneeling, stands Zuri, a rag in her hand. She's washing the floors. A bucket of water lies nearby, and the rag is gray. She doesn't hear him because she's busy. He knocks on the door with his knuckles. She looks up, sees him, sees the bouquet. She freezes for a second, then she slowly stands up, wiping her hands on her apron. She doesn't smile, but she doesn't frown either. She looks at him with the same calm as she did this morning. Taejun walks inside. The floor is wet. His shoes leave marks, but he doesn't pay attention. He approaches her and hands her a bouquet. "This is for you," he says. She looks at the flowers, then at him. She doesn't take them right away. She waits. "Why?" she asks. He thinks for a second. "You helped me out today," he says. "I don't forget things like that." She takes the bouquet. She holds it carefully, like something fragile. She looks at the white and yellow heads. Then she looks up. "You shouldn't have," she says. But her voice is softer than it was this morning. "I must," he replies. She places the bouquet on the windowsill next to the bucket. She doesn't look for a vase or straighten the petals. She just puts it down, because there's no time right now. The floors need finishing. Taejun looks at her hands, red from the water, at her apron, already stained with stains, at her face, bare of makeup, bare of jewelry, and he realizes she's not like everyone else around him. She doesn't ask, doesn't wait, doesn't play. She just works. He takes a step forward. "I want to propose to you," he says. She raises an eyebrow. Not scared, not surprised, waiting. "You'll be my personal driver," he says. "It's a promotion, more pay, better room, and no sex." She is silent. She looks at him with a long, unreadable gaze. Her large eyes do not blink. She is thinking. "I didn't drive expensive cars," she says finally. "You'll learn," he replies. "I haven't worked for people like you," she says. "It's nothing complicated," he says. "You just take me where I tell you to. You keep quiet when you have to. You speak when you're asked." She looks at the bouquet on the windowsill, then at her wet hands, then back at him. "When should we start?" she asks. Taejun almost smiles, but he holds it back. "Tomorrow morning," he says. "At 7. The car will be in the yard." She nods. She doesn't thank him. She doesn't smile. She simply nods, as if agreeing to a job change. Nothing more. But Taejun sees a small sparkle in her eyes. Not joy. Interest. He turns and leaves, leaving her in the damp hallway with a bouquet on the windowsill. He goes out into the fresh air and heads to his room. On the way, he thinks he did something right. Not for business. For himself. The next morning, he gets up earlier than usual. He puts on a different suit. Also black. Fresh. He pulls his hair back. He goes out into the yard. The car is parked. The engine isn't running, but she hasn't started it yet. He waits. At precisely 7, the service entrance opens. Zuri steps out. She's no longer wearing an apron. She's wearing black trousers, a simple white shirt, and her hair is pulled back into a thick braid. She looks different, more stern, more collected. She's holding a small bag. She walks to the car without looking at him. She opens the driver's door and gets in. She adjusts the seat and mirrors. She does it quickly, confidently. Then she inserts the key. She turns it. The engine starts on the first try. Zuri glances at the instruments, checking everything for a couple of seconds. Then he turns to look at Taejun, who's standing by the rear passenger door. "Sit down," she says. Not sit down, not please, just sit down. He opens the door and gets in the back. The leather creaks beneath him. He leans back, looks in the rearview mirror. Her eyes are there, large, dark, attentive. She pulls out of the yard. She drives smoothly without jerking. She looks at the road, at the mirrors, and back at the road. In the city, she doesn't get lost, doesn't brake abruptly. She drives confidently, as if she's been doing this her whole life. Taejun is silent. He looks out the window, at the trees, the houses, the people. But out of the corner of his eye, he always sees her hands on the steering wheel. Her fingers are long, calm. There is no oil on them, no dirt. She is no longer a servant. She's driving him to their first meeting. He doesn't tell her where to go. She knows the address herself. Someone told her this morning, or she found it in her papers. He doesn't ask. He just sits behind her and looks at her. She stops in the mall parking lot, not pulling into someone else's space. She turns off the engine and gets out. She opens the door for him. He gets out, straightens his jacket and looks at her. "Wait here," he says. She nods and gets back in the car. He walks into the building, but turns around halfway there. She's sitting behind the wheel, looking straight ahead, not at her phone, not in the mirror, just waiting. An hour later, he returns. He climbs into the back seat. She starts the car. At that moment, he notices that she's not only looking at the road, she's looking in the rearview mirror, but not at him, behind him. "Is something wrong?" he asks. She is silent for a second. Then she says, "That white car. It was parked at the entrance when we arrived. Now it followed us out." Taejun looks out the side window. He sees a white car 2 car lengths behind him. Not close, but not far either. "Are you sure?" he asks. "Yes," Zuri answers. "I remembered the number." He is silent. A chill rises inside. Not fear, premonition. "Take the main road," he says. "Don't rush." She nods and drives calmly, as if nothing had happened. But now her eyes glance more often at the mirrors. The white car is still behind her. Taejun takes out his phone and dials a number. The voice on the other end is quiet, speaking in short sentences. Zuri can't hear the words, but she sees his face in the mirror. It hardens. He ends the call and puts his phone away. He looks at her through the mirror. "Turn right at the next light," he says. She turns. The white car turns too. "Turn right again," he says. She complies. The white car repeats the maneuver. Now there are 2 cars between them, but she doesn't let up. Zuri doesn't ask what's going on. He doesn't panic, doesn't step on the gas. He drives smoothly, calmly. Only his fingers tighten on the steering wheel a little. "Now turn left into the alley," says Taejun. She turns into a narrow street between old houses. A white car pulls in behind her, but there's only one exit. A dead end. Zuri stops. He looks in the mirror. The white car also stops 20 meters away. The engine is running, but no one gets out. Taejun looks at her in the mirror. Their eyes meet. He sees in her gaze not fear, not a question, but calm readiness. "What are we going to do?" she asks quietly. He looks at the white car, then at her. "We'll find out now," he says. "Get out of the car and come here." She doesn't ask why. She opens the door and steps out. She walks slowly to his door. He opens it from the inside and follows her out. He stands next to her. Now they both look at the white car. There's someone in it. 2. They don't come out, but they don't leave either. Taejun takes a step forward. Zuri stays put. She doesn't run, doesn't hide. She stands and watches. He walks toward the white car, slowly without hiding his hands. He approaches the driver's door. He knocks his knuckles on the glass. The window rolls down. 2 men are sitting inside. Ordinary faces, dark clothes. Not bandits, not police, someone else. "Who sent you?" asks Taejun. The man behind the wheel is silent. The one in the passenger seat is also silent. They just look at him. "I asked again," Taejun says. His voice is low, calm, but this calm makes me feel cold. The driver takes out his phone. He shows the screen. There's a photo on it, of Taejun, and a red line across his face. "Warning," says the driver. "The next one won't be on paper." They start the car and drive away. Quickly the tires squeal. They disappear around the corner. Taejun stands still, holding his breath for a few seconds. Then he slowly turns around and walks back. Zuri stands by his car, looking at him. There's no fear in her eyes, just a question. "Who was that?" she asks. He comes close to her, looks down at her. She doesn't back down. "People who want to scare me," he says. "It won't work." She is silent. Then she says, "Let's get out of here." He nods. They get into the car. Zuri starts the engine and pulls out of the alley. He looks in the mirrors. The white car is gone. Taejun sits in the back. He looks at the back of her head, her braid, her calm hands on the steering wheel. He understands that she saw something she shouldn't have, but she didn't run away. She didn't ask unnecessary questions. She stayed. He doesn't say thank you. He doesn't say anything. But deep down, he decides she'll be there. Not as a driver, as someone else. He doesn't know who yet. But that will come later. And while they drive through the city, between other people's cars and other people, the silence in the car speaks louder than words. The phone rings at 3 in the morning. Zuri is asleep on a new bed in a room larger than her old one. The room is on the first floor of the mansion, with a window overlooking the courtyard. She's not used to such comfort. The floor is wooden, the bed is wide, the sheets are clean, but she's still a light sleeper. Every rustle wakes her. The call breaks the silence. She opens her eyes and looks at the screen. Taejun. She picks up on the second ring. "We're leaving," he says. His voice is calm, but there's a hint of harshness in it. "I'll wait at the entrance." She doesn't ask why. She doesn't ask where. She simply gets out of bed. She's wearing the long t-shirt she sleeps in. She quickly finds a pair of jeans and pulls them on. She puts a sweatshirt on top. She doesn't braid her hair, but rather gathers it into a high bun as she goes. It's 3:05. The house is quiet. The hallways are empty. The lights dim. She walks barefoot across the cold floor, then finds her shoes by the door. She ties her laces quickly, like a soldier. He goes outside. The night is dark. The moon is invisible. The streetlights in the yard glow dimly. The car is already parked, its engine running. Taejun is sitting in the back seat. He's wearing a black, long-sleeved shirt, his hair loose, falling over his shoulders. His face is pale in the light of the dashboard. Zuri gets behind the wheel. He doesn't say hello or smile. He simply turns the key, even though the engine is already running. He checks the mirrors and shifts gears. "Where to?" she asks. He names the area. Old, abandoned. She knows the place. There are no houses there, only empty warehouses and potholed roads. She doesn't ask what's there. She simply drives out of the yard. The gates open slowly. The night air is cold. The wind blows against the windows. Zuri drives along a forest road, then onto the highway. The city is asleep. The streetlights glow in neat rows, and there are almost no cars. She looks in the rearview mirror. Taejun sits motionless. He doesn't look out the window, doesn't look at her. He just sits there with his eyes closed, but she knows he's not sleeping. His fingers rest on his knees, motionless, like a statue. She drives in silence. The road gets worse. The asphalt ends, and potholed streets begin. She slows down, avoiding the potholes. There are no streetlights, only the headlights picking out old fences and peeling walls from the darkness. They enter an industrial zone. There are tall workshops with broken windows, rusty gates, and piles of scrap metal. The smell of damp and old iron permeates even the car. Zuri stops at a large warehouse with open doors. "Here," she asks. Taejun opens his eyes and looks at the building. "Yes," he says. "Wait in the car." He comes out. He walks alone toward the warehouse. His footsteps ring out loud on the concrete. The light from the headlights falls on his back. Black shirt, black hair, a black shadow ahead. Zuri watches him go inside. The darkness consumes him. She stays in the car, the engine running quietly, waiting, counting the seconds. 5, 10, 20. Silence. A minute passes. Then another. She glances at the clock on the dashboard. 3:20. She doesn't know what's inside. She doesn't know if there's anyone there. She doesn't know who he's meeting at 3 in the morning in a deserted area. She turns off the engine to save fuel. The silence becomes complete. Only the wind howls in the broken windows of the warehouse. Somewhere, iron creaks. Somewhere, a stone falls. Zuri waits. She doesn't come out, doesn't call him. She does what he said, waits in the car. But anxiety grows inside her. Not fear, premonition. She grips the steering wheel and looks at the dark opening of the warehouse. Another minute passes. Taejun comes out. He walks slowly, his hands in his pockets. His face is hidden in the darkness. He approaches the car, opens the door. He gets into the back seat. Silence. "Well?" asks Zuri. He doesn't answer. He looks out the window at the warehouse. "Come inside," he says quietly. "Take a look." She turns to him, looks at his face in the dim light. He's serious. He's not joking. "What's there?" she asks. "You'll see," he replies. She gets out of the car. Her feet hit the cold concrete. The air here is different, heavy, with the smell of rust and dust. She walks toward the warehouse. The car's headlights illuminate the way, but it's still dark inside. She steps inside. The floor is concrete, cracked. The walls are gray and stained. The room is empty, only some old boxes in the corner and a broken pallet. But that's not what she's looking at. She's looking at the far wall. There's a photograph hanging there. It's big. It doesn't fit on the entire wall, but it's large enough to see the details. It's Taejun. The photo was taken recently, in the same suit he wears. There's a red line on his face, thick, drawn in paint. It crosses his face from forehead to chin. There's something written under the photograph. Briefly, just one word. Zuri doesn't come closer, but she can see the letters. They're not in her language. She doesn't understand what's there. She stands and watches. She can't breathe. It's cold inside, but not from the fever. Thoughts race through her head. Who hung this? Why? Why did he bring her here? Why didn't he tell her on the phone? She hears footsteps behind her. Taejun follows. He stands 3 steps away, hands in his pockets. He looks at the photograph. It's a warning, he says. It's not the first. I've seen these before. Zuri turns to him, looks him straight in the eyes. Who does this? She asks. Those who want to take what I have, he replies. They've been trying for years. She looks at the photograph again. The red line glows in the semi-darkness. She doesn't know what this color means, but she understands that this is no joke. Why did you bring me here? She asks. Taejun is silent. Then he says, because you need to know who you're working with, and what it could turn into. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't look away. She stands straight, looking at him. Then she looks at the photograph, then back at him. Are you afraid? She asks. He almost smiles, but not quite. No, he says. But they want me to be afraid. She takes a step toward the exit. Then she stops and turns to look at the wall. She looks at the photograph again. Taejun's face, the red line. She memorizes every detail. Then she turns to him. Let's get out of here, she says. Her voice is calm, without trembling. She walks toward the exit without looking back. She passes him, steps out into the fresh air. She gets into the car, starts the engine. She waits. Taejun follows her out. He walks slowly to the car. He opens the door and gets in the back. He looks at her in the rearview mirror. You're not shaking, he says. Why should I be shaking? She replies without turning around. He's silent. Then his lips stretch into a smile. Not wide, not loud, quiet, almost imperceptible. But she sees this smile in the mirror. It's the first time he's smiled since she's known him. Let's go, he says. She pulls out of the warehouse yard. The drive back seems longer. The moon emerges from behind the clouds, illuminating the potholed street. Zuri drives carefully, but quickly. She wants to get as far away from here as possible. Taejun is silent the entire drive. He doesn't say a word. He just looks out the window at the dark houses and empty streets. Zuri doesn't break the silence. She's thinking about the photo, about the red line, about how she's gotten herself into something bigger than just being a driver. They pull into the mansion's gates at 4 a.m. Zuri parks the car in its usual spot. He turns off the engine. The silence weighs on his ears. Rest, says Taejun. There's no meeting in the morning. I'll call you when I'm ready. She nods. She gets out of the car. She walks toward her entrance, but stops halfway. She turns around. Taejun is standing by the car, looking at the sky. His hair is fluttering in the wind. Taejun, she calls. He turns around. Are you okay? She asks. He looks at her for a few seconds. Then he nods. He says nothing, but his face softens a little. She goes to her room. She enters it, closes the door. She sits on the bed and sits in the darkness for a long time. She doesn't sleep. She thinks. In the morning, she wakes up to the smell of coffee. Someone is brewing it in the kitchen. She gets up, washes herself with cold water. She puts on clean pants and a shirt. She braids her hair. She goes out into the hallway. The mansion's kitchen is empty, but there's a coffee pot on the stove. 2 cups are nearby. She pours herself a glass and sits down at the table. 5 minutes later, Taejun comes in. He's not wearing a jacket, just trousers and a white shirt with the top unbuttoned. His hair is loose, hanging over his shoulders. He looks younger, less stern. There are circles under his eyes. He's barely slept. He sits down opposite her, takes a second cup, pours coffee. Silence. Zuri looks at him. He's different today. No armor, no mask, just a tired man in the morning after a bad night. Are you hungry? She asks. He looks up. What can you cook? He asks. Scrambled eggs, she replies. That's all. He almost smiles again. Come on, he says. She gets up and goes to the stove. She takes eggs out of the fridge, along with butter and bread. She turns on the gas. She heats the pan. She works quickly, confidently. She doesn't look at him, but she feels his gaze on her back. She fries eggs and toasts bread in a dry frying pan. She divides them onto 2 plates. She places one in front of him and takes the other for herself. He looks at the food. He picks up a fork and cuts off a piece. He chews slowly. He doesn't say whether it's tasty or not, but he finishes it all. She eats too, silently. The silence in the kitchen isn't oppressive. It's warm, cozy. It's getting light outside, and the birds are starting to sing. "Thank you," he says finally. She nods. She doesn't ask why. She knows. After breakfast, she goes to the garage. She checks the car, as she does every morning. She checks the oil level, the tire pressure, the headlights. Everything is fine. She sits in the driver's seat to check the ignition. She turns the key. The engine runs smoothly. She's about to get out, but notices the glove compartment. It's open. Not all the way, but a gap is visible. She pulls the handle and opens it. Inside are documents, a couple of pens, a flashlight, and a key. An ordinary metal key, old and worn. It has no tag, no number. Zuri takes it in his hand. He turns it over. It doesn't look like a car key. It doesn't look like a front door key. It's smaller, with a different head shape. She remembers seeing one just like it somewhere. In the basement, on a door that was always closed. Taeju never mentioned that door. No one ever did. She puts the key in her pants pocket. She gets out of the car and closes the door. She goes to the house, but not to her room. She goes down to the basement. The basement is cold and smells of concrete. Old things, boxes, and tools are stored here. The light bulb burns dimly, barely enough to illuminate. She walks along the wall, counting doors. The first one is the storage room. The second is the boiler room. The third is the same one, locked. She takes out the key, inserts it into the keyhole, turns it. The lock clicks quietly, as if it hasn't been opened in a long time. The door opens inward. It's dark. She finds the switch on the wall and presses it. A dim light comes on. The room is small. The walls are gray, windowless. On the floor lies an old carpet, worn to holes. Drawings hang on the walls. Children's, drawn in pencil and markers. Houses, trees, the sun, and figures of people. A little girl, a man, a woman. She looks at the drawings. They are old. The paper is yellowed. In the corner of the room stands a child's chair, and on the floor, by the wall, is a woman's shoe. Just one, black, patent leather, with a thin heel, dusty, worn. Zuri bends down and picks up the shoe. It's light, empty inside. She looks at the drawings again, at the woman, at the girl, at the man. She doesn't understand what happened here, but she feels it's important, that it's connected to Taejun. She hears footsteps behind her. She turns around. Taejun is standing in the doorway. His face is pale, his eyes wide. He looks at her, then at the room, at the drawings, at the shoe in her hand. She thinks he'll get angry, that he'll yell, that he'll throw her out. But he doesn't yell. He doesn't get angry. He goes inside, passes her, stops at the wall. He runs his fingers over one of the drawings, the one with the woman with long hair. "That was my mother," he says quietly. "She drew with me." Zuri is silent. He doesn't know what to say. "She disappeared when I was 10. He continues. "She didn't leave. She didn't run away. She just vanished. Her things were left in the house. This room was her studio." He turns to her. There are no tears in his eyes, but there is something that hurts more than tears. Emptiness. "I'm still looking for her," he says. "Nobody knows about it." Zuri looks at him. He doesn't see a boss, or a mafia member, or a stern man in an expensive suit. He sees a boy who lost his mother and still hasn't come to terms with it. She takes a step toward him. She extends her hand. She takes his fingers. He doesn't remove his hand. He stands motionless, looking at her. "Why are you showing me this?" she asks. "Because you found the key," he says. "Because you weren't afraid to open the door. Because you didn't run away to the warehouse." She squeezes his fingers a little tighter. He responds in kind. "We'll find her," Zuri says. "Or we'll find out what happened." He looks at her for a long moment. Something new appears in his eyes. Not hope, but something close. She doesn't let go of his hand, and he doesn't let go of hers. An hour later, they're heading into town. Zuri is driving. Taejun is in the back seat. The usual rote, the usual routine. But she looks at the road and thinks. She takes a different turn than usual. Not toward the office, not toward the meetings. In the wrong direction. Taejun notices this after a minute. "Where are we going?" he asks. She doesn't answer right away. She drives further, out of town, along a narrow road between fields. "I decide for myself," she says. "You're not going to the meeting today." He's silent. He doesn't argue. He leans back in his seat and looks out the window. Beyond the fields a forest begins, then a lake, small, calm, the water dark blue, not a single person around. She parks the car near the shore. She turns off the engine. She opens the window to let in some fresh air. "Why are we here?" he asks. "So that you remember that there are other places besides warehouses and meetings," she replies. He gets out of the car and walks toward the water. He stops at the very edge and looks at the smooth surface. Zuri follows him out and stands nearby. "She loved lakes," he says quietly. "Mother, we went on picnics every summer." Zuri doesn't say anything. She just stands there. The wind rustles her hair. They stand like that for a long time. A minute, 2, 10. Then it starts to rain. At first it's sparse, then heavier. The water drums on the leaves, on the grass, on the roof of the car. "We have to go," says Taejun. "Let's wait," she replies. They climb back into the car. The rain pounded the roof, creating a noise that drowned out all thought. Taejun sat in the back seat, Zuri in the driver's seat. They looked at the water, rippled with droplets. "Are you afraid of someone?" he asks suddenly. She turns to look at him over her shoulder. "Only losing this job," she replies. Her voice is even, but the truth is there. He looks at her. Rain pours onto the windows and it's dark and warm inside. "You won't lose it," he says. "I promise." She nods, turns to the window. The rain continues to fall. They sit in the car, and time passes slowly. No meetings, no calls, no threats. Just the rain, the lake, and silence. When the rain stops, they head back. On the way, Zuri notices something shiny on the back seat. She doesn't turn around, but she sees it in the mirror. An earring, small, gold, lying on the leather seat. She's silent the whole way. She doesn't tell Taejun. She just looks at the earring in the mirror and thinks. She doesn't wear gold, and neither does he. That evening, when they return to the mansion, she goes into the garage alone. She checks the car. She opens the back door and picks up the earring. She examines it. It's an expensive item, not just any jewelry. She puts the earring in her pocket. She goes to Taejun. He is sitting in his office, looking at papers. "I found this in the car," she says, placing the earring on the table. He takes it between 2 fingers. He looks. His face hardens. "It's not mine," he says. "I know," she replies. He is silent. Then he picks up the phone. He dials a number. "Check everyone who's entered the garage in the last week," he says into the phone. "Everyone, including security." He hangs up. He looks at Zuri. "Someone was in my car," he says, "while we were sleeping, or while you were out." She doesn't say, "I didn't see anyone." She doesn't make excuses. She just nods. "We'll find it," she says. The next day, the results come in. Taejun calls her into his office. There are photos and a list of names on the desk. "We found a guy," he says. "He worked for me for 3 years. He showed guests around, opened doors, served drinks. No one checked his background." He looks up at Zuri. "He worked for my enemy. All this time. 3 years. Zuri looks at the photograph. An ordinary face. Unremarkable. "What's wrong with him now?" she asks. "He left," says Taejun. "But we know where he is." He falls silent. He looks at her for a long moment. "You want to ask me something," he says. "I see." She sits down opposite him. She puts her hands on the table. "Yes," she says. "Did you kill?" The room falls silent. Taejun looks at her, doesn't look away. Silence for half a minute, maybe a minute. Time drags on. Then he says, "I am not who you think I am." She waits for him to continue, but he adds nothing. "That's not an answer," she says. "That's the only answer I can give now," he says. She looks at him. She sees that he's not lying, but he's not telling the whole truth either. "Okay," she says. "I'll wait." He nods. She gets up and leaves the office. In the hallway she stops. presses her back against the wall, closes her eyes. She doesn't know what to do with what she heard, or what she didn't hear, but she decides to stay, at least for today. She hadn't planned to stay. Her shift ends at 8 o'clock, and she usually gets into her small car, the one Taejun gave her last week, and drives into town. Her apartment is small, on the ground floor, with windows overlooking the courtyard. Not the best place, but it's hers. She's used to it. That evening she packs her things and checks her keys. Taejun is already in the office. The door closed. She doesn't say goodbye, doesn't knock. She simply heads for the exit. The phone rings when she's already in the car. The number is unfamiliar. She picks it up. Zuri? The voice of a neighbor. An old woman from the 3rd floor. Your door is open. I was walking past and it was wide open. Zuri freezes. What do you mean, open? She asks. It's open, the neighbor repeats. The lock is broken. I looked inside, and everything is scattered around. Are you coming? Zuri doesn't say yes or no. He asks, Did you call the police? No, I called you first. Call me, says Zuri. I'll be there in half an hour. She hangs up. She sits in the car, looking at the dark windows of the mansion. One thought lingers in her head. Too strange and too timely. Too strange and timely. She doesn't go into town. She gets out of the car and returns to the house. She knocks on the office door. Come in, Taejun says. She comes in. He's sitting at the table, papers in front of him. He looks up. My apartment was robbed, she says. Right now, while I'm here. He doesn't ask for details. He puts his pen away and puts the papers aside. Are you going there? He asks. The neighbor called the police, she replies. I need to be there. Taejun gets up. He goes to the window and looks out into the yard. You won't go, he says. She remains silent, waiting for an explanation. If it's them, he continues, without turning around. They're waiting for you there, not in the apartment. On the road, at the entrance. Inside, they know where you live. They knew before you started working for me. Zuri feels a chill inside, not from fear, from understanding. Can't not go, she says. My things are there. My documents. I'll restore the documents, Taejun says, turning to her. We'll buy new things, but I won't give you up. She looks at him. There is no pity in his eyes. There is calculation, cold, precise. Stay here today, he says. Tomorrow my people will check the apartment. The police will film everything. If it's dangerous, we'll know. Zuri wants to argue, but she realizes he's right. It's too strange and timely. She'd just started working for him. She'd just seen the photo in the warehouse. She'd just found the earring in the car, and now her apartment was wide open. Okay, she says. I'll stay. Taejun nods. He returns to the table and sits down. There's a spare room on the 2nd floor, 3rd door down the hall, he says. It's clean. She goes out, walks down the hallway, up the stairs. The house is quiet. The guards are downstairs. The cook is gone. The cleaning lady is gone. Just her and him. She finds a room, opens the door. There's a bed, a closet, empty walls. Everything is tidy. It smells of dust. But there's no lock on the door. None at all. Just a handle. She sits down on the bed, looks at the door, thinks. 10 minutes later, she gets up and goes to the bathroom. She washes her face and brushes her teeth with a toothbrush she found in the cabinet. Everything is new, in its packaging. He is ready for guests. She returns to the room, lies down on the bed, doesn't undress, lies fully clothed, staring at the ceiling, doesn't sleep. There's a knock on this door an hour later. She's awake, so she answers right away. Yes, Taejun enters. He's wearing the same shirt, but it's unbuttoned almost all the way. His hair is loose. He's holding 2 glasses of water. Aren't you sleeping? He asks. No, she answers. He places the glasses on the nightstand and sits down on a chair against the wall. There are no more free rooms in the house, he says. The guards have taken 2. The cook sleeps in his. The rest are locked. She looks at him, waiting. My room is big, he says. There are 2 beds. No, 1. But I can lie on the floor. She doesn't smile. She doesn't look surprised. Are you suggesting that I sleep in your room? She asks. I suggest you sleep on the bed, he replies. And I'll lie on the floor. You're not going to sit in the hallway, are you? She thinks for 3 seconds. Then she gets up and takes a glass of water. Let's go, she says. He goes first. She follows him. His room is at the end of the hallway, with a large, dark wood door. It's spacious inside. The bed is huge. In the middle, the walls are gray. The curtains are black. There's a thick, soft carpet on the floor. Taejun takes a blanket and pillow out of the closet. He places them on the floor, against the far wall. He lies down and covers himself. He doesn't take off his pants, but unbuttons his shirt completely. Zuri stands by the bed. She looks at him on the floor. She feels uncomfortable, but she doesn't say anything. She lies down on the bed. The blanket smells of him, cleanliness and coffee. The lights are off. The room is dark. Only the moon shines through a crack in the curtains. It's so quiet you can hear their breathing, hers and his. They're not sleeping, both of them. She knows because his breathing isn't deepening. He knows because she's still tossing and turning. "Tell me something," he says from the darkness. "About what?" she asks. "About myself. How did you end up here?" She is silent. Then she says, "I came from another city 5 years ago. I had nothing. No money, no place to live, no friends." "Why did you leave?" he asks. "There was no air there," she replies. "It's a small town. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone tells you what to do. I wanted to decide for myself." "And what did you decide?" "I decided I'd work wherever they'd hire me. At first, I washed dishes in a cafe. Then I cleaned offices. Then I found an ad for a job in a house outside the city. Good salary, room, and board. I called, and they hired me. This was my home," he says. "Yes," she says. "I didn't know who the boss was. I didn't care. I just wanted to sleep off the floor." He is silent. Then he asks, "And the family?" "My father died when I was little. My mother stayed there in that city. We don't talk. She didn't want me to leave. And you wanted to." "Yes," she says. "And I don't regret it." She falls silent. She hears him breathing, evenly, calmly. "Weren't you scared?" he asks. "Going alone, without money." "It's scary," she admits. "But I can't be afraid for long. A month of fear, and that's it. Then you have to live." He doesn't answer. The silence returns. Zuri closes her eyes, not sleeping, but resting. Her thoughts run in circles. The apartment, the broken lock, someone else's earring, the red line on the photograph. She doesn't know who needs all this, but she knows she's inside now. They lie in the dark, he on the floor, she on the bed. Neither is sleeping. Neither is talking. Just close. In the morning, Zuri wakes to light. Someone has opened the curtains. She turns her head. Taejun is standing by the window, looking out at the courtyard. He's wearing the same shirt, but now it's buttoned up. His hair is pulled back. She sits up in bed. Her hair is tousled, her face sleepy. She doesn't put on makeup tonight, and now she looks less like a driver and more like an ordinary girl who just woke up. "The coffee is ready," he says without turning around. The cook has arrived. She stands up. She walks toward the door but stops. He turns around. He has a cup in his hand. He raises it to his lips and she sees his fingers. They have scars, thin white lines on the skin, on the index finger, the middle finger, the thumb. Not fresh, old. These happen when you cut paper for a long time, or when you hold something sharp. She looks at his hands. She doesn't look away. He notices that she's looking. He doesn't take his hands away, doesn't put them in his pocket. He just holds the cup. "Where does this come from?" she asks. "A long time ago," he replies. "When I was learning to be who I became." She expects more, but he doesn't add. "You asked about murders yesterday," he says. "I didn't kill, but I did something else. Something that leaves traces." She looks at his fingers. She imagines how they held something dangerous, how they cut, how they hurt. "Do you regret it?" she asks. He thinks. "Sometimes," he says. "But the choice was between that and death, not mine. Those who were nearby." She nods, doesn't judge, doesn't ask any more questions. She takes a second cup and pours coffee. They drink in silence, standing by the window. The yard is gray. The sky is low, but inside it's warm. An hour later, she washes the car. There's a bucket of water, a sponge, and shampoo in the garage. She scrubs the hood, the doors, the roof. She loves doing it. The mechanical work is calming. Taejun walks into the garage. He has a piece of paper in his hand, several sheets of paper stapled together. He approaches her and hands it to her. "What is this?" she asks, wiping her hands on a rag. The contract, he says. A new one. Read it. She takes the paper. She reads the first page. It's about her salary. The figure is high, more than she earned 6 months earlier. She turns the page. It's about housing. A separate house next to the mansion. Small but private, with a kitchen, bedroom, shower. Third sheet, about the car. Not the one she drives, but her own. Personal. The fourth sheet, about vacation, about sick leave, about everything she never thought about. She reads to the end. Silence. Then she takes the paper with both hands. And tears. In half. Then again. And again. The shreds fall onto the concrete garage floor. Taejun doesn't move. He looks at her. Why? He asks. I don't need a contract, she says. And a separate house. And this is the salary. Why? Because then I'll owe you, she says. And I don't want to owe you. I want to be there because I decided to be there. Not because you paid. He looks at the scraps of paper on the floor. Then at her. You're strange, he says. You too, she replies. She bends down and collects the shreds in a bucket. She leaves the garage and throws them in the trash. She comes back, grabs a sponge, and continues washing the car. Taejun stands and watches. Then he rolls up his sleeves and grabs a second sponge. He begins washing the second car, which is parked in the corner of the garage. It's old, dusty, and hasn't been touched in a while. They work in silence. Water drips onto the floor. Sponges squeak on the metal. An hour later, both cars are clean. Zuri looks at the old one. It's black, like the new one, but older, with scratches on the doors. Does it work? She asks. I don't know, he says. We haven't started it for a long time. She opens the hood of the old car. She looks inside. Wires, a battery, pipes. Everything is covered in dust. Give me the key, she says. He goes into the house and returns with a key. She gets behind the wheel of the old car. She turns the key. The engine sputters and coughs but doesn't start. She gets out and opens the hood again. She checks the terminals. One has come loose, just like that first time. She tightens it with her fingers, then tightens it with a small wrench from the toolbox. Let's do it again, she says. He gets into the car and turns the key. The engine roars to life. It shakes, coughs, but runs. A minute later, it hums steadily. She smiles. Not widely, like that first day, but he sees it. He gets out of the car, comes close to her. She stands by the hood, her hands covered in oil. He leans over and kisses her on the cheek, briefly, lightly, as if thanking her. She doesn't move. She looks at him. Then she raises her hands. She grabs him by the collar of his shirt. Her oil-stained fingers leave dark marks on the white fabric. She pulls him toward her. She kisses me herself, straight. Not on the cheek, but on the lips. Long. Doesn't let go. He pauses for a second. Then he answers. His hands are on her waist. She's on his collar. The garage is quiet. Only the old car's engine hums in the background. She pulls away first. She looks at him. There's no embarrassment in her eyes. Only confidence. Now you owe me, she says, for fixing it. He almost laughs. Not laughs, but close. I already owed, he says. From that first day. She lets go of her collar. Dark fingerprints remain on the white fabric. He looks at them, then at her. You won't wash it off, she says. And I won't, he replies. The next day they drive out together. Zuri goes to the driver's door. As always. He opens it, but doesn't get in. She walks around the car, opens the rear passenger door. Taejun is already sitting there, in his usual spot. He looks at her with bewilderment. She doesn't get in the back. She closes the passenger door. She walks around the car again. She opens the front passenger door. The one next to the driver. Sits down. In the front seat. Taejun is silent. She turns to him. Smiles. I'm not your driver today, she says. Today I'm just the girl driving you, and I want to sit next to you. Security stands at the gate. 2 men in black. They watch Zuri climb into the front seat. They exchange glances. They say nothing. Taejun looks at her, then at the guards, then back at her. Let's go, he says. She starts the engine. She drives out of the yard. The gate closes behind them. The guards watch her go. Now everyone knows, she says. What exactly? He asks. That I'm not just a driver. He's silent, but she sees in the mirror that he's smiling. Quietly, In his own way, they're heading into town, but not to a meeting. Taejun takes out his phone and dials a number. "Cancel everything for today," he says into the phone. "All meetings, all calls. I'm busy." He hangs up and puts his phone in his pocket. "Where do you want to go?" Zuri asks. "Show me the city," he says. "Not the one I know. The one you live in." She looks at him for a long time. Then she nods. "Hold on," she says. The streets are narrow. She steps on the gas. The car shoots out onto the highway. The wind rustles through the open windows. Zuri's hair flutters, a few curls escaping her braid. Taejun sits next to me. Not behind me, not at a distance. Right next to me, elbow to elbow. She takes him to the old neighborhood where she lived when she arrived without money, where small houses stand close to each other, where fruit is sold on the corners, where children play on the pavement. She parks near a narrow alley. She gets out of the car. He gets out after her. "This is where I started," she says. "I rented a room in the basement. The window was small, barely letting in any light. I paid $200 a month." He looks at the old house with peeling paint, at the barred windows, at the trash bins by the entrance. "You don't regret it?" he asks. "Not a day," she replies. She takes his hand. He doesn't move. They walk down an alley past old houses. People look at them, at her in her simple clothes, at him in his expensive suit, but no one says a word. They reach a small park. There's a bench, a few trees, a sandbox. They sit down. "Tell me more," he says. "What do you want to hear?" she asks. "Everything that you remember." She looks at the sandbox where 2 children are playing. "I remember cutting my finger in the kitchen during the first month," she says. "The wound was deep, and there were no bandages. I wrapped it in a rag and went to work, because if I didn't show up, they wouldn't pay me. And if they didn't pay me, there wouldn't be enough money to buy bread." He squeezes her hand. "Now you have me," he says. "It won't solve all the problems, but you'll always have bread." She looks at him. There is seriousness in his eyes. "What about you?" she asks. "Will you ever tell me everything?" "Someday," he says. "Not now, but someday." She nods. She doesn't press. They sit on the bench, looking at the children. The sun comes out from behind the clouds. It gets warmer. "Thank you for coming," he says. "Thank you for inviting me," she replies. They return to the car. She gets behind the wheel. He sits next to her. She starts the engine. "Where to now?" he asks. "You wanted to see my city," she says. "I'll show you everything." She pulls out onto the main street. A long day lies ahead. No meetings, no calls, no threats. Just the road and him by her side. She smiles and steps on the gas. The car moves forward, into the city, into a new day. It's just beginning. They drive through the city. Zuri chooses streets she's never driven on with him before. Narrow, with cars parked on both sides. Taejun looks out the window. He sees shops with bright signs, cafes with tables on the sidewalk, old buildings with peeling paint. Not his city. Different. Lively, noisy, unkempt. "I bought my first coffee here when I arrived," she says, pointing to a small kiosk on the corner. "It cost pennies. I drank it and felt rich." Taejun looks at the kiosk. It's old, the paint is peeling, and there's a line of 3 people. "And now you're drinking my coffee," he says. "From an Italian machine." "Your coffee is bitter," she replies. "That one was sweet, with milk and sugar." He doesn't understand what she means, but he doesn't ask. She stops at a park. It's large, with tall trees, and an old fountain in the center. The water isn't working. The fountain is empty, and there are leaves lying inside. "I sat here when I had nowhere else to go," she says. "There were 3 hours left before my shift, and the house was cold. I sat on that bench, reading books, for free." He gets out of the car. She follows him. They sit down on that same bench, wooden, painted green, with someone's initials carved into the back. "What did you read?" he asks. "Everything," she says. "Detective stories, romance novels, cookbooks, whatever I could find in the little library around the corner." "For what?" "To keep from going crazy," she replies. "When you're alone and have no money, your head starts to buzz. Books silence it." He looks at the fountain. He imagines her young, frightened, alone on this bench. A picture forms in his head that makes him feel uneasy. "I wish I had known you then," he says. "What would you do?" she asks. "I'd invite you for coffee," he says. Sweet, with milk, she smiles. Not mockingly, but warmly. You wouldn't notice me, she says. Your eyes are looking higher. He doesn't argue, because she's right. They sit on the bench for a long time, silent. People pass by, some looking at Taejun in his suit, some at her. She pays no attention. He doesn't either. An hour later, they continue driving. Zuri drives the car to the river. The city beach, gray sand, cold water. No one is swimming. Only a couple of people are walking along the shore. I used to come here when I wanted to cry, she says. The wind dries the tears faster. No one sees. Taejun looks at the water. The wind blows in his face. His hair gets into his eyes. Did you cry often? He asks. For the first 2 years, yes, she replies. Then I stopped. I learned not to feel sorry for myself. She gets out of the car and walks toward the water. He follows her. They stop right at the shore. Small waves lick the sand. Do you ever cry? She asks. He is silent for a long time. No, he says finally. I don't know how. It's a shame, she says. Sometimes it helps. She looks at the river. He looks at her. They get back into the car. Zuri starts the engine, but doesn't drive. He sits, looking at the water. What do you see? He asks. Freedom, she replies. When I look at the water, I feel like I can go anywhere, that nothing is holding me back. Does it hold up now? He asks. She turns to him, looks straight ahead. Right now, yes, she says, but this holds a different species, not a cage. He doesn't ask what exactly. He's afraid to hear, and afraid not to hear. In the evening, they return to the mansion. Security opens the gate, and the car pulls into the courtyard. Zuri turns off the engine. They sit in silence. The lights are on in the house. Someone is preparing dinner. I don't want to go in the house, she says. Let's go into the garden. The mansion has a small garden at the back. The grass is withered. The bushes are untrimmed. No one comes here. She walks along the path. He follows her. They sit on an old bench under a tree. Who works here? She asks. No one, he says. Mother loved this garden. After she left, I don't allow anyone to touch it. She looks at the bushes. They have grown too large, covering the fence. The branches reach toward the ground. He's beautiful, she says. In his wildness. You're the first one to say that, he says. Everyone's telling me to turn it off. Don't cut it down, she says. Plant something. Flowers. I'll help. He looks at her. In the twilight, her face is soft, her eyes large. We'll plant it, he says. They're sitting in the garden. It's getting dark quickly. The streetlights in the yard come on, but barely any light reaches here. In the darkness, she takes his hand. He squeezes her fingers. Are you afraid of the dark? He asks. No, she says. I'm afraid this will all end. What exactly? I don't know, she says. Maybe work. Maybe us. Maybe I'll be alone again on that bench by the fountain. He turns to face her. Their faces are invisible in the darkness, but he can feel her breath. You won't stay, he says. I won't let you go. You can't promise that, she says. I can, he says. And I promise. She is silent. The wind rustles in the branches. Somewhere a dog barks. Trust you? She asks. No need, he says. Just wait. You'll see. That night they're back in his room. He's on the floor again. She's on the bed. But today she comes down. She sits on the floor next to him. She lays her head on the pillow next to him. It's cold, she says. The floor is hard, he answers. I don't care. She lies down next to him. Not touching, but close. She feels the warmth of his body. He doesn't move. He lies on his back, looking at the ceiling. Zuri, he says quietly. Aren't you afraid of me? No, she replies. You're afraid of yourself. I can see it. He doesn't answer. He's silent for a long time. Then he turns to her. In the darkness, she feels his gaze. Sometimes I don't know who I am, he says. A boss. A man who gives orders. A son looking for his mother. Or just a man who's afraid to be alone. You are everything at once, she says. And that's okay. He doesn't believe, but he wants to believe. She closes her eyes. She hears his breathing. Slow. Deep. He falls asleep first. She listens to him breathe and thinks about how strange life is. Just a month ago, she was washing floors. And now she lies on the floor, in the room of a man everyone fears. And she herself is not afraid. In the morning, she wakes up to someone covering her with a blanket. She opens her eyes. Taejun is kneeling next to her, adjusting the hem. "You're cold," he says. "I heard your teeth chattering." She doesn't remember chattering her teeth, but she doesn't argue. "Thank you," she says. He gets up. He goes to the window and opens the curtains. Light floods the room. Zuri squints. "Today is your day off," he says. "I don't have days off," she says. "There is today," he says. "I decided so." She sits on the floor, hugging her knees. "What are you going to do?" she asks. "Work," he says. "Meetings, documents, calls. And me? And you will rest," he says. "Eat, sleep, walk in the garden, whatever you want." She's not used to resting, but she doesn't argue. He leaves. She stays in his room. She sits on the floor, looking at the empty bed. Then she gets up, makes the bed. She washes the dishes in the kitchen, not because she has to, but because she can't sit idle. During the day, she goes into the garden. She sits on a bench under a tree. She looks at the bushes, at the sky, at the clouds. She thinks about him, about how he sleeps on the floor, even though he has a bed, about how he looks at her, about how his fingers squeeze the cup. She doesn't know what this will turn into, but she decides not to think about it, just to be there. He returns in the evening, tired, with dark circles under his eyes. He sits down next to her on the bench and rests his head on her shoulder. "It's been a tough day," he says. "I know," she says. "I felt it." She strokes his head. Her fingers slide through his black hair. He closes his eyes. "Don't leave today," he says quietly. "I won't leave," she replies. They sit in the garden until dark. Then they go into the house. Together. Not like boss and driver. Like two people who have nothing left to share. At night, she's on the floor again. He's next to her. But today, she lays her head on his chest. She hears his heart. Smooth. Strong. "Are you sleeping?" she whispers. "No," he whispers. "Me too." She closes her eyes. Her heart beats in her ear. The house is quiet. No phone calls. No threats. No photographs on the walls. Only silence and warmth. She falls asleep first. He listens to her breathing and thinks that maybe not all is lost. Maybe there is something worth waking up for in the morning. Not for work. For her. He doesn't say it out loud. He doesn't know how. But he falls asleep thinking that tomorrow he'll tell her something important. Not today. Tomorrow.